Today we'll be ranking all 3 starters in Pokemon Legends EA. All 3 of these starters and their mega forms are actually quite incredible, but it's important to understand their strengths and weaknesses before making a choice. We're gonna start off by looking at Tepig. And if you want a chance to win a free copy of the game, just subscribe, watch to the end, and comment what you thought about our ranking. Now, fire starters are never a bad choice, and with Tepig's final evolution, Emboar, being firefighting, this is truly a great Pokemon with just a few downsides. Looking at the big picture, this is a line of mixed attackers with especially high attack along with really good HP. Emboar blows the other 2 out of the water on attack especially, but that does however come at a cost of speed. Of the 3, it's the only one that really feels noticeably slow, but it always pays off with impressive damage. Starting off in the early game, Ember at level 6 and Rollout at 10 are both very solid moves. This plus Flame Wheel at level 15 gives it a good offensive start. Now, one thing that Tepig excels in over the other 2 are actually its attack patterns. The straight line movement pattern of Rollout and Flame Wheel allow it to sort of sometimes dodge through attacks when timed right, and comparatively, the other 2 starters really have nothing like this. Another point in its favor is that fire types are quite rare in the early game. The only other early fire types are Litleo and Fletchling. Litleo is a special attacker with a very late evolution, and while Fletchling is good, its secondary flying niche is not nearly as good as fighting. At this point, you also have the options to get early Simisear and Flareon, but these are only short-term gains as neither have megaforms or secondary typings. Tepig also has fairly strong matchups to most of the early promotion fights. Exactly, it's Slowpoke, but it can take care of Pidgey and early Pikachu with neutral matchups and better stats. It's also very good against Yvonne's Pavilion. Now, as we creep towards the mid-game, Tepig's evolution is in the middle of the 3, evolving at level 17. This isn't awful, but there is a worse trade-off to come. Now, on evolution, Pignite gets the move Power Up Punch. This is amazing because every time you attack, Pignite will receive an attack boost, and you can then chain those power-ups into Flame Wheel for just really impressive damage. And Pignite is also amazing for Zavi, who is the hardest and really only standout trainer in the early game. So the line has a really strong start, but there is a very unfortunate downside that comes with choosing it. Crocodile evolves at level 30 and Meganium evolves at level 32. And in the Johto games, you had Quilava evolving really early at level 14, but then getting the latest evolution at 36. Unfortunately for Tepig, it not only has a later evolution at 17, but also then the latest evolution of the 3 at 36. And this is a major downside because it's going to restrict most players from having access to their Mega Starter for the first rounds of Rogue Mega fights. So as you reach the late 20s, you're really going to notice Pignite start to fall off. Another issue is that this guy has some serious late game competition. You can catch an Alpha Houndoom at level 33 in Wild Zone 6 after fighting Xavi, while your Pignite will be in the early 20s. And Houndoom, of course, also has a Mega Evolution. It's also competing with Delphox and the Mega Charizards. But once you do actually reach level 36 and get Emboar, it definitely picks back up again. On evolution, it gets access to Heat Crash, which deals physical damage based on Emboar's weight, and as a bonus, it's yet another move that can allow it to dodge attacks. Now, as a firefighting type, it unfortunately does have some rough matchups into the later game, specifically like Tarragon, but as a whole, Emboar alone is an incredible starter with its just monstrous physical attack, and that's before we even get to its mega form. So this guy does keep his firefighting, but the aura boost is off the charts. Emboar also gets a really nice stat boost with its special defense going way up, plus a small little speed bump. And with 148 physical attack, it's a bit higher than Mega Meganium while being significantly lower than Mega Feraligatr. That said, with its Great Learn set, you won't find its damage to be lacking. Its physical defense is rough at 75, and that's tough because flying and ground are mostly physical moves and are also very common. As for moves, it also gets close combat at 45 and then Flare Blitz at 50. And as for late game matchups, it has an overall very solid performance. And I think despite there being some other good fire Pokemon, Emboar still is the only firefighting type in the game as far as I've seen. So even though it has competition, nothing does exactly what this thing does. And I think it really does manage to find its own niche and also be good throughout most of the game. Now, we've all wandered through the Kalos region at some point or another. And have you ever noticed how everyone there looks both incredibly stylish and also ready to run a 10K? Well, that is kind of what it's like to wear Fabletics, today's sponsor. sponsor. I was recently introduced and then blown away like a Caterpie versus a Mega Holucha when I discovered this brand. Everything is soft, super flexible, and on top of being built to actually move with you, it's also built to last. Working from home, I love this because I tend to wear a lot of comfy clothing. But what really makes Fabletics worth it is the VIP membership. You get 70 to 80% off your first order when you sign up as a new VIP, and after that, you can shop up to 50% off and unlock credit to redeem specific items up to $100. They also very kindly give you the flexibility to skip to pay your membership any month you want, and you can retain access to VIP exclusive deals, price drops, and their workout app. So you can click the top link below to get 70 to 80% off your first order when you sign up as a new VIP. And once you try these, you'll understand why even Naveen feels the jealousy of the Fabletics brand. Now moving on to the water starter Totodile, full disclosure, favorite starter of all time. Totodile has overall been a tricky Pokemon to use. Its first water move is Water Gun at level 6, and then it gets Bite at level 10, followed by Bubble Beam at 15. This is really tricky because as a water starter, you want your water moves to do well, and this is a family of physical attackers. It has 65 attack, but its early water moves are both using its 44 special. And so if you're going to choose Totodile, I think the first thing you need to come to terms with is that this thing is not really a good water type. It's rather a good physical attacker that just happens to be a water type, but it is a good physical attacker. On top of Bite, Ice Fang is one of the earliest TMs you'll get, and Totodile is one of the very few early Pokemon that learn it, and this in unison gives it really good coverage. Now, the other unfortunate downside is that Totodile has the latest evolution, going to Croconaw at 18. Overall, the early game is not super hard, and I think Totodile does pretty fine here. You'll beat Zack's Slowpoke, and if you have Ice Fang early, you'll do pretty good through the rest of the fights. Now, as we move into the mid game, Croconaw's level up move is Slash. While physical, this is a 70 power normal move, which is once again really awkward. Pignite gets fighting type plus a attack boosting fighting move. Bayleaf gets something even better, and this guy just gets normal move. Now at 21, Croconaw gets Aqua Jet, which is a priority water move that does finally take advantage of its physical attack. Priority moves are actually really good in this game, and with high physical attack and its middle of the road speed, this move is really good for finishing off opponents before they can get one last move in. It also gets Breaking Swipe at 26, but not super helpful because there's not a lot of dragons. So most players are going to run Croconaw with its best water move being Bubble Beam, and that is bad. For a mono type starter, its stab type is just not strong enough, which is really annoying because there's a TM for Flip Turn, which is a physical water move that does 60 damage. I didn't know about this my first run. Most people are not going to, and they're gonna have a really bad time, but if you can get this TM, it'll be on screen for a few seconds. It will make Croconaw's mid game much better, and it also pairs really well with Aqua Jet. But things do get better because Feraligatr has the earliest evolution for a final stage starter in the franchise at level 30. And so versus Tepig, you get Croconaw 1 level later, but you get Feraligatr 6 levels earlier. And this is actually really useful. Most playthroughs will get their starters Megastone around level 28 to max maybe 32. So Feraligatr is the only starter that consistently gets its Mega as soon as you get its Stone. Now, before we get to its Mega, let's talk base form. Game Freak continues to frustrate me on this thing, with it learning Crunch on evolution rather than a physical water move. Sure, Crunch is great and it's really helpful coverage, but this means if you don't go out of your way to get Flip Turn or later Waterfall, you are still running Bubble Beam. Also, as a Gen 2 enjoyer, Feraligatr has been learning Ice Punch since 2000, and it doesn't learn it in this game, and that makes me mad. Another issue with Feraligatr is that it's not particularly niche. There actually exists another physical attacking water Pokemon. Its name is Gyarados, kind of niche, but it does everything Feraligatr does. Also gets a Mega. There's also Greninja, which may have a different niche, but has way better coverage. I think really the thing is Feraligatr doesn't have a niche. It's just a wide generalist that does everything pretty good except for used water moves. Also, with Canary being your first ranked match after evolution, it just leaves a very bad first impression. But of course, the question I'm sure a lot of you are wondering is, how is its Mega? Well, guys, as a member of the Feraligatr gang, I was very excited to see Feraligatr become the 6th member of the illusory Water Dragon class. Feels so fitting seeing that this typing was first featured in Feraligatr's home region of Johto. Water Dragon has always been an exceptional type, having only 2 weaknesses to Dragon and Fairy, and so it basically drops the more common Electric and Grass weaknesses and then picks up 2 4x resistances. More importantly, Mega Feraligatr gets arguably the best stat profile. 160 physical attack for my man. That's redemption right there. This is one of the highest physical attacks in the entire game. And don't forget, this thing has Aqua Jet, which means really high attack, instant damage. You can clear some Pokemon from pretty high health with this thing. You then finally get Liquidation at level 40. It also learns Dragon Claw by TM, and then Outrage at 56 goes so hard. It's got a net positive against Ivor. Dragon helps cover its grass weakness against Corbo. It also sits pretty neutral against Jacynth. And then it has overall extremely good matchups against the Rogue Megas. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with the historic underperformance of the Chikorita line, I think many fans can agree that hope for this guy was cautiously optimistic. Listen, Johto fanboy here, you came to the right video. I want to start this section by noting to people that Chikorita is a much better Pokemon than its reputation would have you believe. Chikorita's biggest issue was just simply having the world's worst matchup in Johto, but it's actually a pretty good Pokemon. And especially because ZA doesn't prioritize single type gyms, the game allows a Pokemon's natural ability to stand out much higher. Chikorita starts the game by learning Leafage at level 6, Fairy type Disarming Voice at 8, Razor Leaf at 12, and then Leech Seed at 14, giving it the most first stage level up moves. Now, Chikorita is known for its amazing defensive stats, but I think a lot of players might overlook its early game offensive performance. Chikorita has 49 in both attacks, while it gets a stronger stab move earlier than both starters. And because Totodile is stuck with special water moves, that guy is running on 44 special attack. So Chikorita is not just faster than Totodile or bulkier, but also stronger. Chikorita probably has the most bad matchups in the early game. That's just because there's more bug and flying type Pokemon. But then the fights that it has an advantage in, it seems to do especially better. So it's more of a specialist, and that's fine because you're gonna have multiple Pokemon. Now, as for competing grass types, Chikorita is in a pretty decent spot. Badu is a chore to grind, Pansage will fall off, and while early Leafeon is immediately busted, it's not as good long term. The main competitor is really Bellsprout, who comes fairly early as well, and also now has a Mega Form. I would say though that those two fill separate niches, and they don't really step on each other's toes. Same can be said for Chestnut, and Venusaur's Megastone doesn't come until stupid late into this game, which makes Bulbasaur really bad and then actually has the effect of making Chikorita better. Another small benefit for this line is that it has the earliest evolution with Bayleaf at 16. But it also gets the strongest level up move, Giga Drain at level 16. If this was just raw damage, it would be the strongest move that any starter has now, but it also has Draining, which high defensive Pokemon benefit from the most. So for what most people think of in their head as like the bad attacker, Bayleaf still outperforms Croconaw on stab moves, and while Pignite does have better damage output, Bayleaf has way better staying power. It then gets Body Slam at 22 for coverage and also has Paralysis. And I gotta be honest, guys, for the early game, this combo is broken. The second you get Bayleaf, it is just such a noticeable power spike over the other two. Bayleaf also doesn't overstay its welcome with the most balanced evolution levels. 16 gives you an earlier spike, but 32 happens to be just on the cusp of reasonably attainable levels before you get your Megastone. Now, Meganium itself gets Leaf Blade on evolution, which has 90 power and a chance to crit, and this is nice for some added physical damage, but special moves remain so much more important for this thing. And that is because of its new Mega Form. So Meganium has been given the Fairy type, which is offensively great for it, but defensively a bit of an issue. Fairy typing adds a new 4x weakness to poison while still retaining a fire, ice, and flying weakness. It then trades Bug for a steel weakness, a dragon immunity, and now does have 6 resistances. A lot of people have been talking down this typing, but I think it's more of a mixed bag. The thing that we've noticed is that Mega Meganium has such high defenses is that when paired with Giga Drain, it can help out in any fight that isn't using poison moves. Like, it was able to deal real damage to the likes of a Mega Camerupt, which you think this would be a wash for. But the final reason why this is so effective is a piece of information I've left out, which is that Mega Meganium has 140 40 special attack. That is a full 60 points of its Mega Boost towards power. And for a Meganium, a good offense actually leads to a strong defense because it can heal with Giga Drain. And overall, this just kind of leads to this line having the best average matchups through the game. Into the late game, it has an amazing start against the early Rogues and Canary. Pretty much every trio of Rogues it has just really good matchups against. But after looking at all three starters, guys, we now got to answer the question, which one is the best? The good thing is that all these Pokemon are genuinely good and have something that the other two don't have. All three have a pretty good early game, contributing in different ways. Totodile starts with a wide range of coverage, but its weaker water moves are felt. Chikorita feels great when at an advantage, but Grass and Fairy gives it less opportunities to shine. So I would say Tepig is overall the best early, with access to good moves and wide coverage. Moving into the mid-stagers, Croconaw easily feels the worst of the three. It just feels like a very average, nothing special Pokemon outside of maybe its Ice Fang. Meanwhile, Pignite has an amazing mid-game up to the late 20s when it starts falling off because of its late evolution. But the win easily goes to Bayleaf, who comes the earliest, evolves soon enough, and has broken moves that pairs amazingly with that stat profile. Now, upon evolution, Feraligatr still feels like just a decent water type, but it at least now should have a stronger water move. As base Feraligatr, it's a solid all-rounder, but continues to feel unspecial. Meganium then has a bit of a plateau where it has no more room to grow power-wise on Giga Drain. Emboar is better than both, though. First of all, there's other grass types, there's other water types, but there's only one firefighting, which gives it insane coverage, and it just kind of wrecks everything. Now, as for the Megas, Mega Meganium then comes in as an all-rounder, basically able to help in every single fight, but it does have the lowest damage output. Emboar then has the best coverage, but it also has a fair amount of weaknesses. Plus, I think for the role that you want a Mega to fill, which is just wreck everything, Feraligatr has both the highest damage output with also good enough speed, amazing defenses, and priority Aqua Jet. So it's really close. Like, all three Megas are so good in their own right, but because of that 160 attack, I feel compelled to give it to Feraligatr. As for an overall ranking though, I think Totodile is the worst pick. He's never bad by any means, but very average, and the only thing that stands out, which stands out a lot, is its Mega. Chikorita is then the starter that gives you consistency. Never bad and best between levels 16 to 29. Does that consistency put it over Tepig though? Tepig shines brighter in the early and later parts of the game and also doesn't need its Mega evolution to be good. It does suffer for a brief period before evolution, but I don't think that downside is enough to outweigh just how good this thing is. So with that said, I think they did an incredible job of balancing all three starters, giving each one its own special roles and advantages. But in Legends EA, Tepig is the best starter. It's fire type, guys. Who would have thought? Now, if you guys want to join our giveaway, just let us know what you thought of the review. If you disagree, you agree. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you real soon. Peace.